Let's get talking now. The Nigerian gas market, no doubt, is fraught with myriads of challenges, such as inadequate legal framework, lack of collaboration, weak research and development, lack of technology, imposition of taxes on gas value chain, amongst others, have continued to lay heavy siege to the country's aspirations in the gas revolution plan. This development has continued to make the price of LPG of course, stay on the high side, causing the country to miss out of the windows of opportunities available through the energy transition phase. Let's talk more about this and address all of these challenges in the entire gas market. I'm being joined live in the studio by lead partner, Eco City Advisory, is with me here, Mr. Norbert, and I want to pronounce the other name very well, and that's Shaksuk. Thank you so much, Mr. Norbert Shaksuk.
Thank you for having me.
It's great to have you. It's the first time on the show.
Yes.
Thank you so much. Well, we're talking about the very important gas market here.
Yes.
And for me, the issue of gas hiking the price, despite the reserves that we have, proven and unproven reserves, like the former DPR will always tell us. Why do we still have this issue of high price? Can you explain to us what is playing out?
Okay, so it's quite a worrying issue with the issue of high prices that have remained high for such a long time.
Yeah.
Right? And usually when you have the energy price of commodities remaining high for a long time, it leads to demand destruction. Because, of course, consumers will now start looking at alternatives. And so that will lead to stagnation and growth and also a deceleration of the growth we've seen in the market till date. Now, the high prices are a function of a lot of things, right? And for you to be able to appreciate it, I would like to break it down as to where the cooking gas comes from.
Go ahead.
Right? So cooking gas at the moment, of course, majority of it, more than 70% is imported.
Imported.
Exactly, right? But when I say imported, a certain percentage of that imported volume actually comes from Nigeria, right? Nigeria has some gas facilities. We have the NLNG in Bonny. You have the Mobile or so project also next door to Mobile, to NLNG. And then you have the Chevron FSO, of course.
Yep.
Right? So most of the LPG comes from these facilities, but the facilities are not designed to meet the local demand, right? There are no truck loading facilities, so which means you have to take a ship to the facilities in Bonny or also and bring it into the various ports in Ogara, in Apapa, Calabar, or Port Harcourt, right? all of the coastal depots. And so which means you have to start raising LCs, and then these cargoes are all contracted in dollars. Right? The NLNG cargo is indexed to the US market. The Mobile or so project is indexed to the European markets, and so on. And so you have LPG produced from Nigeria, but priced in dollars. And of course, you know where the FX is at the moment, right? Yeah. And so, and then if you have to also load from Bonny or also Mobile project or Chevron, you would have to use a ship. Now you have additional handling cost for shipping. Then you have to think of all the importation duties and so on and so forth. And so all of these factors have led to the high prices, right? So I would say a lack of a local pricing policy for LPG is a major cause of where we are today with that. But sad to say, it is going to get worse. And why would it get worse? Currently, NLNG is the biggest supplier of LPG into Nigeria, right? And starting in 2007 with the domestic LPG project, they committed about 150,000 tons of LPG to the market. Then gradually they ramped that up to 250, then 350. Then earlier in the year, this year, they made an announcement that they were going to devote all of their products to the local market, which was a welcome development because in terms of tackling the issue of energy transition, right, you have to look at availability of the products, right? Because first of all, when you look at the issue of energy in Africa, there's issue of energy access, right? And so the first thing you have to do is make the supply available.
True.
Right? And so that has been the cornerstone of the growth we've seen till today, which NLNG has ensured consistently supplying the market over the years. And then in 2015, government also removed subsidy on kerosene, and then that drove the market from 350 to about 1 million tons. And we expect that growth to continue from 2022 and all the way up. But of course, we're now dealing with the issue of high prices, and people are actually changing to firewood, right? It took 15 years to get people to transition from firewood to LPG. Now with the high prices, people are going back to firewood. And you know how it is, right? It took you such a long time to get them into the product, and now they're facing this high prices, and people go back to what they're used to. It's not going to be an uphill task trying to win people back again into this sector. And so why did I bring up the issue of NLNG, right? As the biggest driver of the growth in the LPG market and bringing stability and so on, now there's a recent development where the NNPC Limited wants to take up its quota of production from Nigeria LNG. Right?
They still own 60% of Mobile Gas. They own about 60% of Chevron FSPO.
Yes. Well, so the thing is, all of these volumes are available for everybody, right? So basically that allows competition, and that allows traders who over the years have improved on their efficiency, have made investment in downstream retail infrastructure, right? All of the off-takers that have been taking LPG from Nigeria LNG, right, have made investment downstream. And so they've improved efficiency, right? And also have perfected the logistics arrangement for bringing LPG from Nigeria LNG, and then where there's no sufficient LPG, of course, you have to import from Angola or Europe, right? But where NNPC now takes over this available volumes that have been devoted 100% to the Nigerian market, if NNPC has to take that up, which means every other partner of NNPC in Nigeria LNG will now have a right to take their own products and they can export it, right? And so what we are going to see is now a supply disruption. And where you're going to have supply disruption, then the situation you have at the moment will get worse, right? And so for me, what I think I see happening is the fact that there's a lot of distortion in government, right? There's no coordination of policies. If you implement a policy, right, and that policy is effective, you have to think of how to build on it and not to basically enact other policies to reverse the impact of the first one you've put in place.
Allow me to interject. You're talking, let's talk now about back taxes here now, unrealistic levies and all of that. For a government that is saying that this is a decade of gas, what should be in place to encourage local off-takers?
Okay, so, well, I've talked about availability,
yes,
right? The second issue is the issue of accessibility, because if you make LPG available, yes, it's available everywhere. Now, there are lots of homes that are not on LPG, which means you have to focus on for policies to help people in the village be able to have access to cylinders and stoves to be able to access the gas, but also for there to be retail facilities across the country, because even if you give a woman in the village LPG cylinders, she needs to find where to fill it up. Now, all of the facilities you need, the equipment you need for the tanks, and all of the equipment you need for LPG is taxed heavily. About 70% or thereabout, more than 70% is taxed on LPG equipment. Now, fiscal policy is meant to either encourage investment or consumption in something, or discourage consumption of that item. For instance, I talked the other day about vehicles. Government wants to discourage consumption of luxury goods. Of course, they jack up the taxes. So if you're not jacking up the taxes in LPG, basically you're telling us you're discouraging the growth of the consumption of that product. And so for me, there are other things the government can look at, right? The LPG at the moment is denominated in dollars, right? You want to buy an LPG from Nigeria LNG, you have to raise an LC. It's indexed to the US market, right? So also the mobile, LPG. So also Chevron. Now, you mentioned rightly at the beginning of your opening remark that Nigeria is endowed with a lot of gas. Of course, we have more than 206 trillion cubic feet of gas. A lot of that currently is in non-associated gas fields. And then, but of course, what you see being produced at the moment is associated to crude oil production. Now, the way forward is basically to find how to bring those gas fields into production, right? Because, as I said, NLNG, you have to use a ship to go load from there, and so you have to deal with the handling cost, shipping cost, and then taxes, and you have to raise an LC. Now, NNPC, instead of going to now disrupt a system that already works, right? It took NLNG 15 years, working with the NLPGA, working with the off-takers, to be able to establish this scheme, which has been successful. From 48,000 tons in 2007, they grew the market steadily to about 1.2 billion tons, right? and there's a projection of the market reaching about 5 million with greater utilization for power, for auto gas, and so on. That is where we're supposed to be going to. And the more you improve utilization, right, the lower the cost of the product. And these are the places to look at. And so for NNPC, yes, they're commercial.
Exactly. I want to say for a commercial company that should make profit.
Yes. And so if they go in to take over this volumes from NLNG, they deprive a system that's already working from having the necessary supplies to grow the market, right? And then if NNPC also now starts establishing its own scheme, then you're going to see a lot of disruption in supply. So our advice, they look internally, right? There's a lot of gas. If you put a gas process facility, you can produce the dry gas, of course, which the local market needs, and then the liquids, basically, which is the LPG, can now be utilized locally. Now, all of that production coming from the hinterland gas process plants can help to bring down the cost of LPG, and that is the direction the government should look at. Government should look at that, growing the local production, right, by putting up new gas process plants to make more LPG available in the hinterland with loading facilities that people can access with trucks. In that case, it takes away the shipping cost from NLNG, takes away the need to raise LCs or raise banking facilities to be able to access those products. And so when you establish the local production points and local offtake points, it brings about the growth you're looking for, right? And you're able to now also have a local pricing for LPG, whereby you can price it in Naira. Right?
It's sad. It's sad. We have this challenge too with the petroleum importation value chain, where you have to pay dollars to the likes of Nimasa, you know, for you to get some clearance and all of that. We're a dollarized country. We spend Naira here. I wonder why this is happening. But moving on, what now really should be the role? Because I'm worried. The NNPC now seems to be a player. We're no more a regulator, because now he's also a player in that market. But they seem to get all of the goodies in the space. What is happening to local operators now in the gas space? What are they going through at the moment with the issue of demand, availability, and all of that?
Okay, well, so a lot of the local players, especially for LPG, have made a lot of investment in retail outlets, gas process plants, gas bottling plants, and also have invested in storage facilities. I mean, like coming from where we're coming from, 2007, where there was only 1 or 2 LPG depots, and now you have quite a lot. And then also a lot of bottling plants starting from 80, now you have close to maybe 500 bottling plants across the country. So all of that investment has been made by these stakeholders, and they expect to reap the returns on that investment over time. But of course, when this issue of high taxation comes, of course, you're going to have people moving to alternatives, which means they're now going to start losing the market, right? And so you're now going to have a sort of a deceleration in terms of growth in the market. And of course, where there's a deceleration in growth, all of the investment you've made will now be in vain, because you're not going to see the market to supply. And so this is one impact. And then secondly as well, with the disruption in supply, potential disruption in supply by the intervention of NNPC in the current domestic LPG scheme, you're going to see, you know, of course, they'll have to look for where to get their own LPG, which means you have to now start looking for an international trader. You have to go to Angola, or you have to go to, you know, Equatorial Guinea, or start looking to Europe for supply of LPG. And so a lot of the things that are happening at the moment, of course, will have a negative impact. It's also going to discourage investment. Nobody's not going to put more money opening bottling plants or putting up all of the logistics to supply LPG into the market. So this is the fate of the sector at the moment. And I pray that government, just as they have worked together, NLNGS has driven this, but it's on the back of a government policy that directed volumes that were meant for export back into the market, right? And has led to where they are at the moment with 1.2 million tons, right? But that has been a corporation. Now, that corporation has to be sustained, right, for us to see growth. And so having succeeded in making availability, right, an issue in the past, they have to now look at access, they have to look at promoting awareness, they have to look at introducing new means of application of LPG in auto gas, in power, and so on. And so that is the kind of cooperation that should be seen. And in addition to that, also developing local gas resources by putting more gas process plants in the hinterland. There are just some players, like Seplat, for instance, has invested in a major gas process plant in the east, the Ano gas plant. That will bring up about some LPG in the market. They also have invested in the Sapele gas plant and also Oben. And so we're going to see a lot of these gas plants being invested in by local players. Seplat is a local company, right? And I believe that NNPC should follow in that stead and also try to now make an investment in local gas process plants that will make gas available, right, for industrialization, for power generation, and then the liquids, of course, that come off that production can now be used for LPG. And so this is the kind of direction, policy direction that we should be going. And already the stakeholders are getting worried. The NLPGA and all of the stakeholders and all of the people that invested in LPG, they need to see growth in these areas. They need to see government action in these areas. And that is the sort of discussion we should be having.
I must thank you so much. This is going to be a continuous one because we really need to keep a tab. Because I think that space is where we need to take advantage of, move away from just fossil fuel and clean energy, gas, and all of that. Thank you so much for your insight. We'll keep a tab on you. Eco City Advisory, lead partner, Eco City Advisory, Mr. Norbert Shaiksok. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Tolu, for having me.
All right then.